Hi folks, in this video I wanted to kitbash Cato Sicarius into a Primaris Space Marine, and I'm going to show you how I did it right now. For the base of the model I used the Captain from the Company Heroes kit. It was a great starting point in which I didn't need to do much to it to actually make it look Ultramarine-y, if that makes sense. Once all the pieces have been clipped from the sprue and cleaned up, I stuck the torso together, and then with a combination of my hobby knife and sanding sticks I removed the Aquila. I was sure to make small controlled cuts when removing the Aquila from the chest plate. Not only is it safer, but you're less likely to ruin the rest of the detail around the model. Whilst you watch me sand some plastic down, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for your continued support. I really appreciate all the comments, likes and subscriptions. It shows that I'm heading in the right direction. Your support really does mean the world to me, so thank you once again. When sanding this part down, I actually used 3 different types of sanding sticks of various grit. You can find a link to where I got these in the description below. Once I was happy with that, I then glued the legs onto the torso. Next up, I wanted to replicate the dangly metallic loincloth that Cato Sicarius has. For this, I dipped into the Horus Heresy Fafnir Ram kit, as I felt he had the perfect piece I needed. However, there was going to be a lot of work to remove the iconography and the loincloth from the belt without damaging the rest of the piece. So using my hobby knife, I made small, controlled cuts to ensure that I didn't ruin it. If you've been enjoying my content, consider subscribing to the channel and chucking me a cheeky little like. That way, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can beat that YouTube algorithm that everybody is fighting against. Plus, you get cool person points for doing so. That isn't reason enough, I don't know what else is. Once I was satisfied with the smoothness of the loincloth, I then got my hobby clippers and slowly and carefully, with a combination of intricate cutting and ultimately brute force, removed the loincloth from the belt buckle. And then once again, with a combination of my hobby knife and sanding sticks, I smoothed the contact point down that was going to connect to the belt buckle. And for that belt buckle, I used the Company Heroes Captains that was already in that kit. He has like a selection of them, so if you use this one for this, you've got another one just in case. Through this whole process, I constantly compared the loincloth against the belt buckle before starting to make more adjustments if needed. And once I was satisfied with how it was looking, I glued it into place. For Cato's sword, I dipped into the Captain in Gravis armor kit that I've been using recently. There's so many cool pieces in that kit and I really recommend you get that if you're looking to convert your own Space Marine characters. I just needed the sword and the hand holding it for this bit, so using some other clippers, the ones that I used to cut bigger chunks of plastic off, I removed the forearm and tied it up with my hobby knife after. Once again dipping into the Captain in Gravis armour, I took his right shoulder pad, the one that had the cloak draped over the top of it. The pad itself is quite chunky, but I thought it was alright and it doesn't look too different when the model's together. However, I did want to take away the little nub at the bottom of it to kind of distinguish it from being a Gravis armour shoulder pad. The main reason I wanted to get this shoulder pad sorted first, as it was going to sit along with the cloak as they are a combined piece or a piece that sticks together. Plus it allowed me to see how the arm would fit on the model before I kind of committed to sticking it together and then realising later on that it wasn't going to work. The backpack was a simple one, I just used the banner one from the new Sternguard veteran kit. The reasoning behind why I stuck the backpack on first rather than the cloak is I wasn't too sure how the cloak and the shoulder pad were going to fit together. Doing it this way allowed me then to manipulate the cloak to make it fit in a way that was more natural looking rather than kind of stuck on and just hope for the best sort of thing. Plus it allowed me then to make sure that the shoulder pad itself sit naturally rather than, again, looking odd. Just to clarify, the cloak that I used is the one from the Captain in Gravis armour, as there is a small connection point that connects to the shoulder pad where the cloak's draping over also. It made sense to me to use both these pieces as then it would seem like one continuous piece, if that makes sense. Well, I hope it does anyway. Dipping into a completely different kit now, I use the small kind of circular armour shielding from the Chaos Chosen kit from Age of Sigmar. It had some small Chaos iconography on there, however I just used my knife and the sanded sticks to remove that. This was going to be used as the clasp that kind of held Cato Sicarius' cloak to his shoulder pad. And then using some blue tack, I just stuck the pieces into place to make sure they fit nicely. Down in the description below you can find a list of kitbashing conversion ideas that folks have suggested that I could do over this series. Once the video's over, take a little look, and if there's anything that isn't on there that you would like to see, let me know in the comments below and I'll add it to the list. Once I was happy with how they were sitting, I then glued the pieces together. Well, I tried to anyway. Once I'd managed to get the shoulder pad to actually stick and stay, I then attached the clasp and began the process of trying to glue the arm into the shoulder pad. I actually made a little bit of a mistake with the arms, and I never realised I did until I started painting the model. For his right arm I used Fafnir Rans, the one that normally holds the axe, and just attached the sword hand to it. However, on the left hand, the one that's going to be holding the plasma pistol, which you'll see soon, I used a Mark III Space Marine arm. Now whilst the armour itself is very similar, the trim is slightly different. Fafnir Rans is thinner and the Mark III is more thicker. But it's important to point these things out, I feel, as you're never going to get it right the first time, you're never going to be perfect, and that's okay. I had to do a little bit of faffing with the plasma pistol. The one I used again was for the company Heroes kit, however the hand holding it was the right hand and I needed a left hand. So using my hobby knife and some blue tack, I gently removed the hand from the rest of the plasma pistol. The left hand I sourced from the Mark III kit holding the Volkite pistol, and I did the same process as I did with the plasma pistol hand. I then glued the plasma pistol to the Mark III arm before sticking that to the torso. You can find links to the kits I used in this conversion in the description below. If you click on those links, they'll take you directly to a store where you can buy them. Unfortunately, that's only in the UK though. All Space Marine captains seem to have a dangly rope tassel thing across their torso, or across various parts of their body, and Cato is no exception. So again, I used the tassels that were connected to a tilting shield from the company hero captain. However, I didn't want the tilting shield as the clasp would be in the way of that. So using my clippers, I removed the tilting shield away and knife just trimmed it back ever so slightly so that it would fit snugly across the chest. And then, along with the left shoulder pad, I glued both pieces into place. You may notice that I used a purity seal next to the clasp. This is because I accidentally cut the rope thing too short. This is why you should always measure twice, cut once. Remember that. Don't do a me, don't do me. To finish off the model, I took the two parts from the Mark III Space Marine Sergeant, the plume and the helmet, and then stuck them together. I waited for them to dry, and with my clippers, removed the plume from the helmet. The reason I did it this way is because if I did it the other way and just removed the small little part that holds them together, I'd end up losing it. This way just made it a lot more simpler. I could then cut it down, trim it down, and get it ready to stick onto the actual helmet I was using. And the helmet I was going to stick this plume to was the Mark VII one that you find in the Sternguard Veterans kit. It's the only one that's in there, which is a shame. I'd love to have more in there. However, I found this was perfect for Cato Sicarius. It kept his old school look, but also upgraded it a bit more. Once that had dried, I stuck the head into place with some blue tack, painted the model, which left me with this. And here he is, my interpretation of a Primaris Captain Cato Sicarius. I'm so happy with how this model turned out. Yes, there was bits that I wish I'd changed or I did differently, but that's part of the process. Please, if you attempt to do anything like this, do not strive for perfection. Just enjoy the process and the journey. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of the video, and a huge thank you to my new patrons that have joined us. If you do wish to support the channel a little bit further, then check out the link to my Patreon below. If not, just subscribe, like and share with some friends. Just maybe chuck a comment in there, that would be amazing. But that's it, thank you all once again, and I'll catch you next time.